Okay, welcome to the Break into Tech podcast, dedicated to those who has transitioned into a tech career without a tech degree. I'm Ken, your host today. Joining us, we have Teng Hoo, who is a AI engineer. So, Teng Hoo, why don't you tell me about yourself and your decision to transition from a previous role such as engineer?
So I sort of graduated with a chemical engineering degree actually, and I went into some front-facing roles, so market research, and then after market research, I went into tech consulting. So not necessarily anything to do with coding right now because it's all very high level in terms of tech. But it was good to get a high level overview for other people and all that. And then after that, around a year into a job, I sort of self-taught myself Python, self-taught myself coding, tried to expose myself to all the different aspects of coding. So you have, database and algorithms, front end, back end development, full stack development, and data science. And after going through all those, I think what piqued my interest was in AI. So then I sort of dove into that in terms of after having exposed everything, doing projects, trying to hone my AI skills, and then starting to get interviewed for those. And then ultimately landed a job as an AI engineer. And been an AI engineer ever since.
Can you tell me more about when you started and what are some of the materials or how do you even start self-learning these kind of topics?
Sure. So I think for me, I was always interested in problem solving actually. So solving problems in general. I think also why I went into chemical engineering, at the core of all of these is like to do with problem solving. And I figured when I was doing consulting, it was more so a front-facing job where I'm helping to gather requirements, gather materials to do the specific job, but you don't actually do this job. So you don't really problem solve to the end-to-end level. So that was why I chose to learn coding myself and self-learn, because I feel like with coding, you can technically do anything. Technically, you can do anything you want and build anything. So it was just up to you. And it's just a matter of time, of how much time you spend into building different things. So I think with that in mind, you sort of just think about, oh, I need to solve this problem. Then if you know how to talk to clients and you know how to code, then you sort of have both sides as a skill. And it's really valuable to have both sides. And the main platform I looked into was Udemy. And I think in terms of compared with other platforms that you have outside there, specifically like those ones where they charge you cost-wise, they charge you monthly. I think I took Udemy because it was a monthly payment. It was a monthly cost. It was more like pay for one specific course. And I think that one at the beginner levels is good because you don't know how much time you would spend for particular courses. So like, oh, I'm spending this much for this course, but you don't spend any more. So I think that's one of the things that sort of also why I went into Udemy. And then I think Udemy is generally beginner friendly. So I think someone who's going into tech and don't really have much experience into tech already, Udemy is probably the place, which I think I agree. They kind of like explain things very well, step by step. Most of the teachers and the people who put their content on Udemy. So that Udemy was the main one. And then we also have like other materials that you supplement with it, Stack Overflow, YouTube. And then for me as one who wanted to go into AI, Kaggle was a place to sort of practice most of the things there.
Right. You did tell me something pretty amazing yourself. You're one of the first stories that I've heard of someone actually learning how to code in 3 months. Can you tell me how much effort do you put into learning how to code in 3 months? And what are the commitments you have to go through while holding a job?
Right. So my job was during MCO, where it was December 2020-ish, where I worked from 10 to 7 p.m., 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. So at that time, what I did was most of the time, I'm not sure if it's every day, but weekdays I would do 2 hours before work. So like around 7 till 9, and then I drive to work. I'm sorry, not drive to work. Yeah, so it's 8 to 10, and then I work because it's still MCO, everyone's working from home. And then after work, you would have dinner. So 8 to 11, I would spend time also learning. So that's 5 hours during weekdays, and then weekends is probably around 1 weekend day. So like maybe it's half day, Saturday, Sunday, or 1 full day Saturday or 1 full day Sunday. So that was the commitment for 3 months. And yeah, it was probably the best decision I ever made.
Wow,
No regrets there.
that's a lot of grit there, and I really respect that. Yeah, and
Thank you.
that would be like 2 hours before work, 3 hours after work. So can you tell me about
Yeah.
what was the drive behind this effort to self-learn 5 hours a day?
So I think one was key indirect driver was MCO, so we technically had nothing to do. So that was number one. Not the main one, but I think that's what is just the environment that helped. And then I think the biggest one was sort of my curiosity in coding. I think for me that time it wasn't really about, oh, I need to earn more money, but more so I think I've been wanting to learn coding a long time. So the motivation was just that, especially AI that time as well. I was really intrigued about what goes behind how to build AI tools, what goes behind even like websites, full stack development, what goes behind those. So I knew where I sort of roadmap myself in terms of where's the starting point of all of this, which was obviously to learn Python for me. And also learn some front-end development, back-end development, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, made some React, those kind of things. And then sort of just give yourself time here to follow your interests. I think that's the biggest thing in my case. So if I was to, and then suddenly I really liked network engineering, then I would go into that. But it was more for me AI. So that's just my own sort of curiosity that piqued the most, and then I just went into AI there. So for me, I sort of took the 1 to 2 months or even 3 months to scope out what was interesting and what was intriguing, and then afterwards pick the one that I liked. But all in all, it was very interesting to me. That's why I chose into it anyway.
So to recap your learning timeline, you would say it's between 5 hours every day before and after work, and maybe 1 full weekend day. Is that right?
Yeah.
And that is the span of 3 months.
Yeah. Around there, yeah.
Yeah. So you learn computing and programming in 3 months. And perhaps can you tell me how long did it take for you to get a first job?
So the timeline there would be mid-December till February, March, right? I finished, so you can say I finished learning the 3 month span. And then I sort of looked into projects and stuff like that. I started applying in April, and then I got an offer in July. So it was around 3 to 4, probably around 3 months. I got an offer from there, and you shouldn't expect it to be really high salary offers. It's more so getting into tech as a role into the field for now. So I wasn't really concerned about the money, and so it was 3 months there.
Great. Can you tell me what are some of the things that you like about AI? Since you are an AI engineer and AI has been the talk of the town now. Tell me something about what do you enjoy out of it, or what do you find fulfilling out of AI?
So I think two main things there. So one would be the fact that you can solve any problem with it technically. So it depends on the complexity of the problem. Some things you don't need AI, right? But technically you can solve any problem with it, and the scope of AI is very wide in that sense, since you can go from solving a text problem to an image problem to a time series problem. So all of those things, I think the vast amount of things you can learn is one, and the other one is the fact that you yourself can just solve everything. I think I really like solving problems anyway. So having that tool and being able to solve problems on your own and without someone else to like a consultant would need someone to help them build the stuff. So I don't like that. So I like to build end to end. So that's why I think AI is there and one of the most intriguing things for me. And the other reason is probably how much it sort of automates things and changes our lives. I feel like, especially in Malaysia, there's a lot of things that haven't been disrupted by AI yet. That you can see outside of Malaysia. There's a lot being disrupted. So, I mean, it's gonna come sooner or later. So better to be prepared. And the intriguing part for me was that you can just write the code. I mean, okay, that time there was no ChatGPT. So now you can just everything in ChatGPT and they write it for you. But at that time, it was the fact that you can automate when you write the code, everything that you need using AI. It was quite interesting to me, and all the math and the fact that you can solve it with it's like AI is like a brain, a computer brain. Obviously, like the brain is way more sophisticated, but it's a smaller version, a simpler version of a brain. That's like quite interesting, and like the math that goes into it.
Yeah. Since it's such a niche role in AI, would you say as an AI engineer, you don't hear a lot of these roles out there? Do you think this is a very niche role?
I think yes, but it's becoming more and more available nowadays since everyone knows that it's needed. Like all the things that you need from AI engineer in terms of like building right now, at least a large language model to fine tune those kind of things, or like a model that you can build generative AI with. So I think those things now that it's up and trending is just increasingly getting more and more available. But no, it's not that available now in Malaysia. It's just that it's becoming more and more. So the more available role, and you can say like well-known role, is a data scientist. But when you look at jobs out there, a lot of jobs have different definitions of what data scientist is. So if you look at a lot of the jobs on LinkedIn from Malaysia, at least, of what data scientists need in a job description, all of those things, some of them are like, oh, you need to have data visualization skills, or you need to know how to use Tableau and Power BI. So that's sort of the front end of like data visualization. But then some people are looking at like, oh, you need to learn machine learning tools and use sklearn, those things. That's ML tools that you have. And then you have the deep learning side, TensorFlow, PyTorch. So those things are more deeper, and that's sort of more in the AI engineer realm.
Right. Just going back to your self-learning phase again. If you were to learn everything from scratch again, how would you do things differently this time?
Right. I think the way that I wouldn't necessarily do things differently in what I've done, but maybe in the order that it was done. So I think I would have spent less time learning things, but more time doing things. Because what I realized was like, a lot of the things I learned from like, let's say, a lot of things I learned that I'm not using now, like database algorithms, or I do use a bit of SQL, but let's say SQL, like those things, it's you learn a lot faster when you do projects using those tools. So like, let's say in data science, you need to build like a simple model pipeline, those kind of things. So instead of going to YouTube or going to courses and then learning these data science pipelines, you should just go into a project. Either it's one that you pick and you want to solve, or go into a project that's already existing and then try to solve it yourself. You learn much more there. In a point of view from an AI perspective or data science perspective, you would just learn a lot more by just doing it yourself rather than just watching videos and learning from there.
So you would tell anyone who would like to follow after you or take a similar path to yours to get involved in projects.
Yeah, more hands-on, and stop just like watching lectures and just learning. But that's obviously the first step. It's just don't just keep doing that same process over and over again, but just do more projects. It's more important there.
More, so there will be a bigger focus in getting your portfolio out, getting more hands-on experience. Yes.
Not necessarily portfolio. So portfolio, you need it there. It's just, you just learn more from doing more, like literally typing out the code and not just watching people do some stuff. Yeah.
Right. So since we are talking about portfolio, you did say
Yeah.
that you took 3 months to learn. Would you say you also build your portfolio at the same time in the 3 months what you took to learn?
Not those 3 months. So I think I was also in the learning process of how to, land a job there. So after the learning, then I realized you do need a portfolio, like you said. So only after the 3 months, then I spent around like 1-2 months while I was also searching for a job. So those were overlapped, building my own project and doing stuff on Kaggle that could help me. So I think, so it wasn't during the 3 months, it was after the 3 months.
How would you say work-life is in your field of work, such as data, compared to your previous line of work? Would you?
I think it's not as, I think a lot of people think that, I'm not sure, but from my YC, actually, no. I think it's not that bad. It's more about how you see it. So number one is the employer. So employer obviously will have a big effect on work-life balance. So like having like tight deadlines all the time, that doesn't really matter which field you're in. So you're gonna have a really bad work-life balance with a tight deadline that's like always coming in. So the other thing is usually when you start off, so when I was starting off in my first company, I wouldn't say it was bad, but it was just longer hours. But I was okay with it because I was interested in learning the code and the tech and what the company was doing. So for me, then work-life balance was fine. It's just longer hours. So after like maybe my second job, it's a lot more, the work-life balance is a lot better because I have the experience already. So I know what needs to be done and I know what to do. So in that sense, it's not so much work-life balance. It was just like what you need to be done and how do you sort of frame the deadlines and the projects with your bosses. So I think after like the first job or your first 2 jobs in tech, the work-life balance does get better, but it also does depend on your employer and how you want to, obviously how hard you want to work. So
Right.
That's another thing. So yeah.
Can you tell me some of your wins, perhaps, in self-learning? I'm pretty sure it's a huge struggle. Can you tell me like what are some of your breakthroughs that you experienced?
Okay. I think it was more of patience. Like you have to understand that these things will take time. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned, where you shouldn't give yourself a very tight deadline when you start off learning tech, because you will just rush everything you learn. And technically, if you do that, you won't learn anything. So, in the case of what I did in Udemy, like I wouldn't sort of rush through some stuff because I was expecting to finish this course in 2 weeks. And then it's like, it's fine if you spill over the 2 weeks. And I think that having that patience in terms of not giving yourself that tight of a deadline. You can give yourself a deadline, but it doesn't need to be like, oh, I need to finish it by then. But more so, the goal is to finish it by then. That's what's driving you to keep going. One of the key drivers, maybe. And then if you don't reach it, it's fine. You maybe reach 80%, but that's already quite good, right? And then the last 20, you just spend like 3 more days, for example. So I think it was patience and giving yourself time to absorb the knowledge, and then don't try to rush into things just because, let's say, you want to earn more money or you want to, like a FOMO thing maybe. So I think like don't rush into it is probably the biggest thing. That's why during that time, I wasn't really, I was spending the hours because I was interested. And I think the patience I had was in the sense where you shouldn't be rushing through the courses. So I just like sort of took my time, obviously not like staring at the screen and sleeping, but sort of like taking the time to learn everything and trying to jot things down and note take to make sure you absorb the knowledge properly. So I think those things are important.
Yeah, I actually agree with being patient and actually really letting your interests show itself. Being someone who is just jumping onto the next bandwagon, it's not going to be someone who is truly interested in perhaps AI like you are. And I really think that is a very good piece of advice.
Yeah.
Perhaps, is there anything that you can share about an interview tip for someone who is just jumping into the job market?
Okay. I think probably because you want to try to look at it from the employer's point of view. So if you imagine you're applying for a data science role, for example, and you're entry level. Okay, let's say you're applying for entry level data science. Probably right now, a lot of people want to get into this field. So they'll probably get like, I don't know, 50 resumes a day and go through like 20 interviews. So what you shouldn't do is try to follow what others are doing in terms of like, oh, what you write on the CV is like basically what everyone's writing, or like your project is the same as what other people are doing. Like, let's say you've done a Titanic in Kaggle. No one cares because they've seen it so many times. But what you want to do is sort of make yourself unique in the sense of, okay, let's say you came from a non-tech background, you had like 2 years experience before. What can you bring that from there to tech? That's something that's unique for you, right? That's one of the things that can make yourself stand out. And the other thing is like, in terms of making yourself standing out, is like projects that you yourself have interest with. So in that case for me, it was like, I enjoy like basketball. So then I just built something that's related to basketball. So, and then that piqued the interest because it was something that was unique that other people wouldn't have built. That's like your own project. And it's not like a project that you picked out from Kaggle or from some website that you saw when you Google searched. So I think trying to be unique is the biggest thing. And how to be unique, I kind of just mentioned 2 of those. And I think being honest to the interviewer is also a biggest thing. So, I mean, for me, I was quite patient. So I was just honest with them saying, I don't have the experience like others, but I'm willing to learn and all those things. So I think don't try to, play the fake it till you make it, like other people say, but more so tell the interviewers what your situation is now and try to make yourself unique and try to do that. And I think you have a good chance if your products are good enough for them and it's relevant enough, and somehow your skills from previous jobs or your previous experiences can really help the current job role. That would be a really good add-on as well.
Okay. Perhaps could you share one tip to help other people learn just as fast or just as well as you?
So how I usually learn is try to see things from a bird's eye view first before going down. So when I started learning Python, for example, they obviously have like blocks of content modules that you learn. And what I usually do is I try to focus on which part. Let's say I'm learning like inheritance or something. Then I try to figure out how this kind of like goes together with everything else, and like how do I use it properly. Like, so I mean, they sort of show you examples, but I think the biggest thing is like when to use it and how it sort of goes together with everything else that you've learned previously. I think those are the things that I try to do before I sort of skip to the next section. Those things, not just skipping and learning, but more so how does it link with other things you've learned from before. So having a bird's eye view of everything and then learning and then coming back up to the bird's eye view to see how it goes. And then you just keep going like that. I think that will, because you don't want to try to remember everything, but more so try to connect things together. It's
Right. The bigger picture.
There's no way you're important. Yeah. You're not trying to remember everything, which is, I think some people are doing that, which is not going to work.
So which helps you connect the dots together if you can have a bird's eye view and have a bigger picture.
So it's don't just dive into it, but just see how it fits into the bigger picture, like what you said.
Cool. I think this is all the questions I have today. Yes. Yep. First of all, it's a great time talking to you, Teng Hoo. Yes.
Thanks, Ken. Yep.
This is me. And yeah, just thank you for coming in. I'm pretty sure this podcast has been a valuable insight to many people.
All right. Thanks, Ken. That's good.
This is the podcast of Break It to Tech. Until next time. Okay, see you guys.